Hey guys, thanks again for tuning back in. And in this final episode, I just wanted to wrap up the year. Firstly, about the highs and lows of what I went through to experience some of the things that probably didn't go my way throughout 2025. There was some hardships and there were some struggles. And then there were those who joined me on the round table and shared insights about their own personal experiences of what they went through, how they were able to overcome some of the struggles they went through too. But also, it was about raising awareness in the community, from the Sunshine to the Gold Coast to Bundaberg and Moore Park. Everywhere that I've been to has been such an honor, and for that, I'll be forever grateful for all the guests that I've had join me and share their stories. But look, that doesn't mean it ends here. It just means I'm taking a couple weeks off before we roll into the New Year's of 2026, where I look forward to getting a few more guests to kind of help fill my table up with a few more signatures and share insights about their own personal life experiences of what they've been through, but also how they were able to overcome it. So please stick around, and I hope you enjoy.
Yeah, so in 2015, my little family lived in a small country town in Queensland. Unfortunately, my husband passed. It was difficult in the way that people would say, "Oh, you know, your son's lost his dad." Guess what? My daughter lost her dad too. You know, the kids were 13 and 15, and we were supported and well looked after in that little town and by people that knew our story. And in that time and place, I didn't have to explain anything to anyone because they knew, and people were kind and supportive. And what I struggled with was actually moving away from that town and that place, because everyone would say, "Oh, what do you do? What does your husband do?" And I'd be like, "Oh," straight away.
And then blow me down New Year's Day 2020. Brycey does this Facebook video, live Facebook video to our page. And he explained everything that was actually going on for him throughout that time. So he'd had a cancer diagnosis, and not long after that, his wife got this weird blood infection or something random that none of the doctors knew. But the effect, the mental effect that had on him was huge. And I was like, that's not cool. If you run in charging saying you can help everyone and you can change the world, most guys say, they don't say it, but they think it. They just go.
Let's say Johnny is struggling with school, doesn't want to go to school. He tells you why he actually doesn't want to go to school, because he doesn't want to burden mum. Financial troubles, always super hard. And that, asking for help is so difficult.
And look, some parents they're doing their absolute best. They are really doing their absolute best. Some of them are burnt out. Some of them are tired. Some of them are raising, children on their own, being a single mum or single dad. Some kids are going through school, they're dropping out of school and they're playing up at school, so they get suspended, expelled, they go home, they get in trouble. At the end of the day, they may have a learning disability. They're getting kicked out because that's their easiest way to, instead of saying, "I don't understand," they prefer to get kicked out because they look cool. Our job primarily is to meet the kids where they're at.
I think it's really important to understand that what works for one person might not necessarily work for somebody else. But I also think it's really important to understand that everybody needs to look after themselves first before they can help other people.
So losing that, as when I left for the mine, I lost everything. I lost my first identity, and I was young, and I've come from a family of lack. You thought money was everything. She showed me love, so much love, that not only she loved me so much and believed in me so much, enough love for me to even give back to the community.
My greatest fear when I was in a relationship, and especially like one that I really was fond of, could hurt. Like splitting up, it sucked, and we were both really upset. Powerful thing that I've heard other men say when they come, on some level, been searching for interaction, energy, bondness, community and support outside of the let's go to the pub and have a beer.
If I'm honest, it took me longer than I would have liked. I spent a lot of time in some really dark places. And that was the moment. That was the moment that broke me. And this moment was, I just got knocked down and I just didn't want to get back up. I realised that it was okay to ask for help. And not just okay, it was important to ask for help.
I was about the age of 5 when my adopted mother called us into a meeting in the lounge, us 3 kids. I've got an older sister who is 2 years older than me. I've got a younger brother that's 2 years younger than me. And they opened up and they told me and us that she was not able to have children, and so they decided to adopt all 3 of us.
What were some of the challenges during that time that you were going through?
A lot of unknowing of what was actually happening, in a sense where my birth father was, in a sense what the reaction would be. Since then we have departed and we are going for a divorce.
I was placed in solitary confinement at 10 years old, and I mean that. It was solitary confinement in an adult prison.
Was that like the turning point of that connection between you and your son Aaron?
That became the turning point. And then she scrolled just a little bit more and his name came up across the bottom of the screen. Aaron Winters. And I said, "You don't need to go any further. I know who that is." It was my son. After all these years, it was my son.
We all know about the fight. We all know about the flight. Very few people mention the freeze, which is what happened to me. Poetry is a way that I dealt with my emotions, trying to understand them, trying to keep a lid on them, because they used to bubble up at the worst possible times.
Okay. It's just based around telling stories. You know, I really believe in storytelling. I always have. As a child, I loved listening to stories, whether that was Richard Scarry or the value of books that I had as a child. Books and stories based around values and based around the goodness of society and how individuals can impact, and how small groups of individuals, like Margaret Mead said, you know, it only takes a small group of people to change the world, and indeed they're the only people who actually have, you know.
Well, I really just wanted to empower people to live their best life, you know, and sometimes removing those blocks and those triggers and those problems that we don't even realise sometimes how much they're affecting us and holding us back. Sometimes with counselling, I find talking about a problem and going into the problem just creates the problem bigger. Unless you get to a point where there's some suggestions for some solutions or some kind of understanding that comes out of it. And you don't always get to that point.
There was a huge sense of isolation because, one, obviously now as a dad, and that was the centre of my universe. Obviously making sure that I could be there for my boy and for my wife as well. I'm not alone in this. Jesus Christ, this guy is just as crazy as I am, or he's struggling just as much as me. I had no idea. I thought it was all about me and the weight of the world was on my shoulders, and I had to take all the burden and nobody else.
As we know, doctors always tell us, you know, stress is a killer. You've got to, you know, pay attention to your body, listen to your body. What's it telling you? What do you need to do to keep yourself healthy and well? Everybody's different with those types of things on how they're going to be in their own body. That's why I'm a big advocate for, you know, checking in with yourself, checking in with your intuition, really connecting and saying, you know, being honest with yourself. You know, what is it that's causing this pain for you? Is it mental? Is it emotional?
I was having difficulty with my relationship with my wife, and I decided that there was a man that I was close with. My primary connection with him was through a 12-step program that I was part of. The Mankind Project was a very important part of his life, and so I decided to honor him.
With it, for me, with my journey though, came a lot of challenge around injury and accidents, and probably my nature. I was pretty impatient. For my father, he lost his social circle from the brain injury. He lost his perspective of being able to be as capable as he used to be, which wasn't really the truth. And then the truth is he got loaded on chemical drugs and zero support system. And unfortunately, 5 years later,
I guess to be greeted by a youngster when you get to the door and the excitement and their pleasure in their eyes, that's something that really is a telling story. I would love something outside of the school curriculum that could offer children.
And that we're trying to provide the best care we can as volunteers to the community in terms of preparing them to prevent fires and helping them when fires do break out in protecting themselves and their property. Really putting themselves right out there and doing the best they could for the community in a way that was very meaningful was the Rural Fire Brigade. And I saw that as an opportunity for me to go in and assist them in some small way in doing that.
What have been some of the biggest challenges that you guys have faced?
Seeing people when we minister to them, and we don't see a lot of changes.
And he said, you keep feeding the poor and I'll take care of you and make sure that you have plenty to be able to do it. So, yeah, we've just walked by faith and believed the Lord to supply everything. And, of course, he has.
I walked away from my job. It's a high-paying job, and I said, no, I don't want to do this anymore.
I think it's that there are people worse off than you. There always is, and that you could be having a really bad day.
We do care. This isn't something that a self-interest, we're getting some boxes checked.
Because I'd witnessed my father build the farm up, and our whole life was on the farm. But it wasn't until 2011 we actually lost the farm, and it was a very difficult time for the whole family, and especially my parents that had spent their whole life building this up from the ground.
Can you recall how you were feeling too during those times?
I felt like it was a time of a lot of insecurity and confusion, and it felt really unfair.
The Mighty Mets is it's a mentor youth program, and we use boxing as a vehicle just to get the kids engaged, have fun, and learn a little bit about personal confidence, respect and resilience. He's a mother and two boys. One's ADHD and one is ASD. The day that he heard the Mighty Mets ad on the radio, and he says, that's me, but it's not a one visit trick. It's a long relationship building process.
So many times we would get children that are very, very young, and they'd all already have dental decay, dental disease. I guess I wanted to try and stop it before it got to that point. I've had to pull teeth out of very, very young children, as young as...
We got just hit with so much all at the same time. And I quite often say that God didn't just bring us to our knees. We were face first in the dirt, and we had nowhere else to look but up.
At that moment, and I realised that he lived in the car. Like, I could see all his belongings in the car. And God spoke to me right then and said, all I want you to do is pray for this man. And, for me, I was like, no, did you see what he did?
Miracles with food, where we had some lamb that, was only supposed to feed 30 to 40 people. And, we're standing there praying over this pot, and we're watching it and watching it and watching it.
Somewhere that I could sit with other blokes and we could talk about what we've done in our lives, the problems we have. The support that I got from the members within the shed was absolutely fantastic. They were all there for me. A few of the other members have lost their partners as well, and they were able to share their stories with me about it.
There's all different reasons why men end up at a men's shed. The different reasons, like most of them involve probably loss of a partner, that's a big one, either through death or divorce. Having a partner who's very unwell, and that has its own stresses and strains. We've had a few of them. Sometimes it just could be the guys that have never married, they're just lonely. Certainly for myself, it's opened up a lot of friendships that I wouldn't have had. And the other thing was my wife, who she was looking at me and she said, listen Keith, you're becoming a bit of a miserable old sod. And I said, really?
So a lot of those things meant that a lot of those sort of divisions between, you know, more money, less money, different backgrounds, they all just disappeared because people were communicating with each other. It's a little thing to try and improve our connection with other people. I think there's no end to that. I think we should all go on doing that as much as we can.
Dad was one that if you wanted something, you either had to make it yourself or make something to sell something so you could buy something. There was no freebies. And I think people need to stand back these days and, as I call it, take time to smell the roses. Because if you don't, everyone's so pushed for time and they're so busy, they forget about living life themselves.
And then the rewarding side is just the impact that you make. I have seen it, looking after her now as her mentor for, it's over a year and a half now. So many positive changes. It's been really incredible. I think that really resonated with me, that it would actually be nice to get out there and give my all to a child who really needed it.
But one of the reasons we don't talk as blokes is, in my mind, twofold. One is we don't want to be a burden. As blokes, we know that other blokes are doing it tough, you know, life's a struggle. And, you know, our mates have already got their own shit on their plate. Why would we add to that?